everybody. Welcome to the June Fireside Chat. I am Ariel Silver coming to you with the SONA Foundation and in a little bit of a different place than I normally am. I am a songwriter as well on tour, and so coming to you from Chicago rather than my home base of Los Angeles this month. I'm very excited about this conversation today that we are having. This is part 2 of our parenting season. We're always talking about mental health and songwriters and mental health with guest songwriters. And last month we were inspired by the Mother's Day celebrations that were happening, and we wanted to dig deeper into that and talk about the various challenges, inspirations, impacts, just the journey of parenting from mothers' points of view. And that was last month. And this month, we have the fathers. We have a couple of fathers here, Ellis, Paul, and Brian Mackey, who will be joining us with our partners, of course, Backline, our mental health partners. But before I bring Tara Lopez, our conversation facilitator, onto the screen, I just want to tell you about this exciting new program that we recently launched here at the SONA Foundation. Here at the foundation, we have 3 sort of pillars: career development, financial wellness, and mental health, of course. And under that mental health initiative, we just launched our therapy assistance project, TAP. And this is a new program in partnership also with Backline, where we are supporting songwriters to demystify therapy and provide financial assistance for those who need that in order to access therapy. And we're working with Backline to help you find a therapist if you happen to need one, or if you just need financial assistance. We have our grant application right on our SONA Foundation website. So I'll pop that into the chat. And if you have any questions about our new TAP program, please just throw those questions into the chat, or you can always send us a message on our Facebook, on our Instagram, on our website, and you can reach me at ariel@sonafoundation.com. Without delay, let's get to today's conversation. I'm going to bring our friend Tara Lopez onto the screen. She is the community manager at Backline. Hi, Tara.
Hey, how's it going, Ariel?
Very good. I'm so happy to be with you again. We do these once a month, and they are really a highlight conversation. You do a great job.
Really, thank you. I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation today.
Yeah, I'm going to take myself off of the screen so you can just take it away and introduce our special guests, as well as Pooja Raz, who's going to be our clinical counselor today. I can't wait to hear what we talk about.
Awesome. All right. Well, as Ariel said, I'm Tara Lopez. I'm the community manager and head of artist partnerships at Backline. We have a very special fireside chat with the SONA Foundation today. As most of you know, Backline is a resource hub for the music industry, and we aim to provide the resources and the tools for anyone in the music industry and their families. And so, like Ariel said, we've teamed up with the SONA Foundation for these very special fireside chats where we talk about mental health for songwriters. And today, specifically, we're talking about parenthood, fatherhood, mental health. Since it is Men's Health Awareness Month, it's a perfect tie-in. So today we have some incredible guests. We have Ellis Paul, who's a singer-songwriter. He weaves deeply personal experiences with social issues. He's had released 23 albums. That is wild, incredible. And he constantly tours. He's won an impressive number of awards, including an honorary doctorate from the University of Maine, the 2019 International Acoustic Music Awards, Artist of the Year, and a whole lot more. We also have singer-songwriter Brian Mackey, whose songs have garnered millions of streams and views online. After touring extensively, Brian has received critical acclaim from everyone from the American Songwriter magazine, from Huffington Post, HMMA Awards, and many more. His latest release, Dust on the Wall, came out earlier this year. And lastly, we have Backline's very own clinical outreach representative, Pooja Raj. Pooja has an extensive background in the mental health field and also is a co-facilitator of Backline's In Tune community group, a shared space for individuals to come together to talk about music industry relationships. She has a wealth of knowledge. She is also married to a touring musician who tours a lot and has 2 young daughters. So she has plenty of experience and tools that she's going to share with us today. As always, Ariel's going to be moderating the chat box. So please feel free to drop any questions that you might have right in the chat box there, and we'll make sure to get to them. All right, so Let's have our guests come in. Hey, Ellis, Brian.
Hey
Hi.
guys.
My gosh. All right. So today we're talking about parenthood and mental health and the music industry and how to juggle all three of those and also take care of yourself. How, first off, I like to start the conversation with just asking you three how you're doing today.
I'm doing great. I guess I'll take it first. I'm in Crozet, Virginia. It's a beautiful day, and nice to be sitting with you guys.
Yeah. I'm doing great too. I'm excited to be here and so honored to, be able to talk to other people in similar, situations and yeah, excited to chat. Another also a beautiful day in central New Jersey.
Whoa, Jersey. That's where I'm at right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm near the Jersey Shore right now. It's really great to be with you all. And yeah, I'm excited to be on.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it. Ellis, let's start with you. As you have two children and you've had such a prolific career, just saying 23 albums is just so impressive to me. You also have played, thousands of shows. How do you also, you've released children's books. So you just seem to do it all. How do you balance the demands of parenthood with that kind of intense schedule?
Well, balance is a difficult word. I'd like to say that it's balanced, but it's never really felt balanced. It's sort of a need-based occupation. I have to. I'm separated from my partner, and so, there's always financial needs in that kind of situation. I have to take care of my life there and their lives over at their place, and so it's challenging. It's super challenging. And in my early days, when I was out doing 150, 200 shows a year, I'd be sometimes gone well over 200 days. And when they were young, it was very hard, and my wife at the time had to the challenge of raising them when I wasn't there alone, which. Honestly, her efforts when I was away were astronomical, and so it's a balance of trying to find ways to make enough money to cover everybody and feed everybody as a musician, which is always in the back of my mind, and then trying to get home as quickly as possible and maximizing the amount I can spend, time with them, and then of course when you come home, you also have to run your business from home. You have to write songs. You have to do all of the social media posts and things like that sometimes is impossible to do when you're traveling over the course of a weekend. But the trick for me, I guess, was deciding that I was going to be away on the weekends and then come home rather than go out for multiple weeks at a time. I would just go out for 3 or 4 days and then be home 3 or 4 days, and now I'm at a point where I take 1 weekend off a month, so I have a long stretch of 10 days to be around them, and so it's been a lot better since the early days of their arrival.
Wow. Okay. So you now have found that balance pretty much, at least with on the touring aspect of just being, going out for a few days at a time rather than that long stretch.
Yeah.
I bet that's very helpful. Brian, how, you've had a fantastic career yourself, touring, releasing albums, and you're also a parent. You have a new album coming out this year, if I'm correct, in June, that's focused on grief over the loss of a child and also the joy of the birth of your daughter.
Yes.
How has writing helped you in your grief journey?
Yeah. Writing has been a healer and also a bringer upper of pain. Stuff that you bury inside comes out when you write, and it doesn't mean to. It's just one of them things where it's almost like automatic handwriting. It comes out of you. You purge what's in your soul, and it's a release that you have, and it does help, but it feels like there's this tremendous amount of pain and regret while you're doing it. I've almost had to stop writing in the beginning when my son passed, because it it seemed to me it was just too much of a reminder of everything I wanted to bury inside me because of the pain. Um, but when COVID happened, the isolation, when the touring stopped and things got quiet, it really materialized into a thing where I had to focus. I had to be confronted with things. I had to sit with it. And I've learned acceptance in some manner through it. Uh, Writing is cathartic. Ellis, with the amount of work he's done, and I can totally relate to the things he said about making time for family matters and putting things in perspective, doing weekend hits versus stretches. All the things that you do, making money, being pragmatic, as well as being dreamy and being able to write and create. It's a fine line. It's a balance. All these things are they're supposed to work in synergy, but they don't. There's times where you can't write anything. You can't focus, and then there's times where this muse comes along where you don't realize it could be shopping in the store, and you could talk to somebody, and it could spark something for you. So there's a lot of different variables when it comes to writing and healing and how it makes you feel. But I think I've come to terms with some parts of it, and I'm starting to get it back. We have an album of 16 songs being released on June 21st that we started at Sony in Nashville, and I stopped because of stuff that we had going on, and then here we are. We're back up and running.
Can't wait to listen to that.
Thank you.
Ellis, Brian, were you ever worried that having children would change the trajectory of your career?
In hindsight, I should have been. I'm more aware. When you have occasionally when you have kids, you're not quite aware of the impact they're going to have in your life until you have them. And my kids came late for me. I had them at 40, and my career was pretty established by then. I grabbed a picture. This is them when they were very young, by the way. But this is my daughter Ella and Sophie.
Oh.
they're now 17 and about to turn 20 now.
Beautiful.
So yeah, it's. Had I known, I early on, would I have done anything different? I don't think so. I was ready to have kids when I had them, fortunately, but I can't imagine how people have them in their 20s when they're just starting to launch a career, and because the distraction and energy that they pull in is pretty enormous, and I don't know that I've experienced freedom like I had in my life in my 20s and 30s since I've had kids. And they pull you in directions. They change how you're aiming at things. They change timelines. You don't make decisions without them somehow being attached. And so yeah, it's like, I don't tour in Europe because I have children, because it's not worth it for me to go over there for 2 or 3 weeks. But in my 20s and 30s, I was free to do that. So, Brian, I don't know how it is with you, but
yeah, I had children when I was 18.
Wow.
And yeah, I never graduated high school. I was working at 15. I think what it is when I had children, I was still writing songs. I was obviously very broke at the time, and my first wife, she was very understanding and just a great solid mom, until I had these weird fantasies about really pursuing music, and then things really started to change. The role of me being a father, a 9-to-5 person, that was her ideal image of what life was supposed to be like, and I just didn't have it in me. I mean, I worked on construction crews, grew weed on the side. I mean, I did everything that I could to make money, you know, but it didn't end well. You know, that marriage was a casualty. And then, you know, there was a lot of stuff after that I went through. But I think with children, a lot of it they're like muses to me in a way, because they would just say the most innocent things at the right time. You know, like I would be really stressed out, and you know, I'd be playing the piano and it'd be like, you know, you really play from the heart, Dad, you know, like something like that. And I would be like, wow, where are you getting that from? You know, and they're like, can I have $5? You know? And I'd be like, well, maybe
$5? How do I get that kid in my life?
Yeah, well, we're going back a couple years, but like, you know, there was that innocence, and there's always that, you know, kids are kids. I remember being a kid, and sometimes I act like one. And I think, you know, having Marigold in my life now, she's just, you know, from her inception, you know, when I was last 2 Augusts ago, she's going to be 2 years old, August 29th. And I was in the delivery room with my wife, and she was having a C-section, and I don't want to get too graphic, but I could smell the blood, you know, and I was there, and I felt like a little weak, and my wife was sedated. And I just remember hearing the cry, and the doctor's actually my neighbor. And I looked over at the scale, and she was 9 pounds, 11 ounces. I'm like, man, she's huge. So glad she went cesarean, you know? And I'm like, I felt like this rush of like, this is so much more big than anything I can ever do in my life right here. You know, this is bigger than my aspirations. This is bigger than anything. This is life coming into the world. I see a breath being taken, you know, and it, you know, to see a life, you know. And I was there when my first son was born, and I also remember seeing him in a casket. And you know, there's such rebirth in that, you know, and it brings me inspiration every day.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's beautiful. Pooja, you have such a unique perspective because you are a parent, of course, but you also, your husband tours a lot. And you also, you know, host In Tune, which is a support group that Backline hosts specifically for relationships and communication. How do you balance all of this with also taking care of your own mental health and yourself?
Yeah, totally. This is the balancing act I feel like that I'm faced with, you know, daily, or actually more like minute to minute. It's kind of like the simple answer I'd say for something like that would be that I like to really make sure that I'm being intentional all the time. I think with that, you know, making sure that the smaller things, you know, are a priority, so that on a bigger scale, everything can kind of come in and fill my cup. You know, if I'm solo parenting and my relationship is feeling like it's, you know, on the back burner, and we're not spending enough time together, not connecting, which happens very often, especially when you have young kids and there's touring going on. We've like come up with some good ways to kind of make sure that we schedule a date night for, you know, when he's back, and make that a priority, because look, we need to make sure our relationship is still connected and strong. And so, you know, taking time for myself, I'm sure I'll mention this a ton of times, but just asking for help is, I think, one of the biggest and most helpful things when you're parenting alone and when your partner is traveling, you know. And he also does these in and out. So it's like, sometimes it's not a big chunk of time. So it's not, say, 2-3 weeks at a time, but it'll be like 3 days in, 3 days home, 4 days in, you know. So it's kind of like that sort of abrupt change and in your routine can really be confusing, and it can throw everything off. So I like to plan ahead, put things in our calendar, like know what's what, know, we rely so much on our shared calendar. I can't even explain how much we use that thing. But just to make sure that, we're on the same page, and make sure that there's, stuff aligned, and that I'm looking in the future for, if he's going to be away, I'm going to get a babysitter this night, and I'm going to go out with some girlfriends and have a good time. And that's some self-care for me. So, taking help, asking for help, using, the resources, community, family, friends, whatever you can to kind of balance all of that.
I love that, because I'm not a parent. I'm definitely still on the fence, but that's what I love, having these conversations and hearing all y'all's perspectives. But I can't imagine also having to, juggle and the relationship and make sure that, communication is good. You're both on the same page, and
Right.
And you're still taking time for the relationship. I think that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think again, like self-care too, just really knowing that, when you're home and you're exhausted with the kids, and, when they're back, knowing that they're also pretty exhausted, that re-entry period is always kind of intense. Someone's coming in really tired. You're also very tired. So those are two very exhausted people who will both kind of need a little bit of support. And so that communication being so key, and just, really making sure that we communicate what we need. Like, I know you might need a day to recoup. I need time once you've recouped, and like, let's make it work. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
This is kind of a question for all of you. How have you introduced your children to the work that y'all do in the industry? And what has their reaction been? Ellis, let's start with you.
Okay. A lot of what I did in my when they were born, I guess they were like 2 and 4, was I started writing music for them. When we'd hang out together, I'd play and they'd dance, and I'd play at home and they'd sing and dance, and we'd do songs that they knew, and I'd play them my own songs, and eventually that led to me doing a couple children's records, and then which led to a couple children's books, and getting them to sing and watch, the unfolding of the song being written and recorded, and they would appear on the record singing, and just to pull them into at least that part of my business that seemed like there was some uniquely shared experiences, and they love it. They love my music, and I'm not Taylor Swift.
Who is?
Yeah, there you go. Or BTS, or I am definitely down the hierarchy of scale there in their minds, but they sing my songs and they can sing them back to me, and it's special. It's been a nice, and they love music and the arts, and I think my youngest daughter will probably end up being a visual artist, and my oldest daughter will probably end up being in some kind of media, doing creative things. So I feel like the music has impacted them in a beautiful way.
Oh, I love that, incorporating them. Brian, what about you?
Well, Ellis, everybody is Taylor Swift to somebody. Remember.
I want to find out who that person is for me.
There's somebody out there, Ellis. I'm telling you, you got a super fan somewhere. I know it.
Yeah.
Maybe more than that. But I think with Marigold, she's already slamming on the piano keys. She hums when I do a melody. We already picked out a website for a domain name for her. I mean, she's groomed. But I mean, it's just she's incredible when it comes to music. I had her on a television program down in Nashville, down on Fox, with me for a little bit. It was in February, and she just was like dada, and we had to put her in the other room because she was really getting, too excited.
No.
Yeah, that's the only fan I have, guys, to be honest with you. But Yeah, but it's just it's amazing how fast she just picks up on it and just really just considers it just a point of fact. This is
Mhm.
what I do. Her mom is a graphic designer, and she's involved in art and everything else. So she kind of keys into that area. And yeah, she's just a quick study, and maybe she'll end up being a lawyer, and she does like buses, maybe a bus driver. I don't really know, but whatever she decides to do, I know she's going to be the absolute best at it. I have that feeling.
Nice.
I love that. And Pooja, how about your children? How do you introduce them to what your
Yeah.
husband is?
Yeah, I think for us, I think they've just been surrounded first by instruments. I mean, our house is just filled with instruments. They're everywhere. So as a child, you're just kind of picking things up and playing with things, and learning on your own and figuring things out. For them, I've noticed that has been a huge way that they've gotten interested in the music stuff. Um, they find the idea of a tour bus like beyond incredible. That's like it's like a castle, with like little bunks and whatnot. And so in that way they get really interested and excited about those things. So they ask a lot of questions. They're at the age, they're 8 and almost 5, and their brains are just like rapid fire. So there's just so many questions like, why did you start doing this? When did you start doing this? And why did you choose this instrument? And so, yeah, and we talk about music a lot. I think we always have music on in our house. And I think that that's always been a really nice way to have the kids just have it in their brains and their bodies. They just are, they're around it all the time, So.
I love that. I love all three of just incorporating
Yes.
your children and getting them involved and, having those conversations.
Totally.
This is also a question for all three of you. What values do you prioritize in your career that maybe translate to your parenting?
Wow.
That's a good question.
Well, certainly there's stuff financially that I have to be aware of because I've got 2 kids. One's in college and one's a senior in high school. So a lot of my choices, financial choices, have to be looking at the fact that I'm going to have two kids in college at the very same time. And so I have to make smart financial decisions based around the fact that I'm going to be supporting my kids through school and trying to give them a step up, because I think in many ways the world is a harder place for a 20-year-old than it was when I was a 20-year-old, and I want to give them every advantage so that they can explore their 20s openly and without fear. And so I know financially I'm definitely making almost every decision I make is based on the fact that I've got 2 kids about to go into college, and then I also have to worry about my own retirement and all the things that are coming up 10 years from now for me. So there's that kind of thing. And then I want them to be both proud of me and feel like I'm a responsible parent, and I'm there for them physically at the same time. So a lot of my choices again are based on time and how much I can get in front of my kids. So if I'm home 20 days a month, and I want to see my kids on all of those 20 days and make sure I'm in their day. So there's a lot of decisions around how I handle my business that impact my ability to be a dad. And I want to find that balance, but it never feels like balance. It just feels like I'm just juggling a million balls all the time in the air and hoping not to drop any of them. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, that sounds pretty on the money to me. Another thing that I noticed, the thing with Marigold, I want her to be non-judgmental, be open, just be accepting of other people, cultures. She just loves all kinds of different food. Um, she'll never turn down a good curry.
He's
She doesn't like your normal.
only 2, right?
Yeah, and she liked it at 1. Yeah, she loves Vietnamese food. So it's like everything that we do, it's always in mind, to be open and just let things in. Because you never know what you're going to get from something to enrich you, or what you're going to put out there to enrich somebody else's life. And we're just always amazed by her openness already. And this guy came over, a good friend of mine, and he doesn't look well, and he lost some of his teeth recently, and he was tuning the piano, and I was expecting her to maybe make fun of him or laugh or look at him in a weird way, but she just gave him a hug. And it's like when he played the piano, she was clapping. It made him feel like $1 billion, and I was like, that's my girl.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that too. We are just kindness is just our biggest value in our home. Just kindness towards ourselves, towards other people, towards our immediate family, our pets, everyone and everything. And my husband and I, both are always pushing for just that notion. And of course, acceptance of others, and making sure that you're comfortable talking to us about whatever's going on. And like I think Ellis, you mentioned, it's a different time, and that absolutely brings more anxiety. I know my girls are still young, but I definitely feel nervous about a lot of the differences of things that were not around when I was a child. And there's so much out there now. There's too much out there, in my opinion, and it's a little scary, and especially with daughters, and you never know. So we do like to be pretty open with our communication, and really make sure that we talk about things, and enjoy art and music, and all those things. So those values. And also, daddy has a pretty untraditional job compared to some other friends. And so I think that always kind of pushing, that you can be good at anything. You can do anything that you really want to do. And, I work in mental health. My husband plays music. So we're all kind of doing what works for us. So
I love that. That's powerful.
It's cool.
Yeah. What would y'all say, or what advice would you give to artists, creative songwriters that are on the fence about whether or not, they want to be a parent? There is a lot of anxieties amongst a lot of, my community of like you were saying, Pooja, the world's a bit different, now, and it's continuing to be. But what advice would you give to folks who are maybe just a little anxious about, like, is this going to affect my creativity? Is this going to, take away my freedom? These real questions that folks have.
Well, shall I start again? I'm just going.
Yeah.
The way this works for me visually is it's clockwise like this, right. So
It's just a good fit, man. It works well.
For me, it's. I don't know if Pooja and Brian, if you guys feel this way, but it's almost like my daughters always existed. That they were pulled out of the ether, but they were always there, and then so. It's so strange that way, but that's kind of how I feel. And I knew it was going to be beautiful to have kids because I loved their mom at the time, and I was ready, emotionally ready, financially ready. I felt like I don't know if I felt like something was missing in my life so much as that I felt like I wanted to bring a bigger love dimension into it. If I could love this person and then we could have children, there'd be more love, and the expanse of my life would grow as well, and the experience of my life would grow. And so they're still the best thing I've ever done. I've put out a lot of music and done a lot of shows, but if you ask me what was the most incredible thing that you ever created, I would still say my kids and mean it. Even though I want to strangle them some days as well. And they cost so damn much money and all of those things. It's heartbreaking. And they're so sensitive and they're so precious and they're so beautiful. And you want to protect them and all those emotions that come up in me. I don't know that I had them to the degree that I have them now. And it makes me a better person. So I think if you're ready emotionally to have them, I'm all for it. It'll make you a better person.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was going to say, the expansion of love is like a feeling that is not something that I've ever understood until I did have my own children, and just like your heart truly does grow. It's an unbelievable, crazy feeling. And then I remember thinking with my second, like, I love my first so much, like, am I going to even like the second one? And it's kind of crazy. It just even more, you get even more bandwidth in your heart, and it's really real. And I wanted to say that my husband Ellis has made tons of music in his career. He's done a lot of great things, but still stands by the kids as his biggest accomplishment, the thing that he feels the most proud of, the thing that he feels the most, the most creative almost about. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
What's more beautiful than creating a tiny human? Think about that. Like,
yeah.
And then another thing is, like, I've learned by doing this that we only allow things not, to get in the way of our creativity if we let them. We have children, sure, and they can take up your time. And my daughter goes through daddy derangement syndrome every day. She wants to know where I am. She wants to know, like everything. If I'm picking up a drill, she cries because she doesn't want me to get hurt.
Oh.
Like stuff like that. But, there's downtime. There's time where you can get away. I go in my car and write. I'll go in a parking lot. I'll play the parking lot poet out there. It's like there's other things that you can do to make yourself available to be creative, and you just have to be creative in being creative.
Right.
You have to just make the time for it, make it a game almost. And then new things come to you, and exercise is good, and try to eat right. But with children though, it can be a challenge, but you definitely have to put it in this bin here, and then return to that bin, that private space where you can feel safe to let it all out.
Have we convinced you to have kids yet, Tara?
Yeah, actually. I'm taking notes of all the things that y'all said.
You're getting in-depth advice here.
No, I'm getting real advice, which is honestly what I need. And I'm sure a lot of folks watching this will need as well. Brian touched on exercise and food, but Pooja, what can parents do if they are feeling overwhelmed? Because there is a lot to juggle. And beautiful, but sometimes I'm sure it can get pretty daunting and overwhelming. So what can parents do to balance like their needs
right
as well?
Yeah, I'd say burnout is like inevitable as a parent. So that's going to be part of the deal, just exhaustion. And then with that maybe comes irritability and, those kinds of things that are just, par for the course. But I'd say, again, a little bit around like getting ahead of it, maybe knowing what is coming. So for example, again, like if my husband's about to be out for a week, like I know that if I can get 3 days of help in there, I can work things around my schedule so that I don't completely fall apart, and that I can get like, I know a break is coming, or I know that I'm about to get a little space and take a little time for myself. We're really lucky in the sense that we live really close to my parents. And that was something, one of the reasons we moved out in Brooklyn. We lived in Brooklyn for many years and moved out here after the kids came. And I have to say, you know, just having that support and that help, it's invaluable. And so, you know, if we can drop the kids off, have like a night off once in a while, those are things that just like refill you so much, because you can be so drained. And even if you spend the entire day sleeping, you know, I think that it's like something that can be so helpful. So just like being intentional again, recognizing, you know, the burnout when it's before it kind of comes, you know, if you're feeling irritable or upset, you know, maybe self-care, like around meditation, exercise, taking a walk, if you can do that. We have a dog, and when I'm feeling pretty like unsettled, I take the kids with me and we all just go on a really long walk, and that really helps me. You know, it's just one little thing, but it helps everyone. So
I love that. Ellis and Brian, what do y'all do to make some time for yourself, for self-care?
Self-care. I have, I see my kids in fits, and you know, I don't generally have them for overnights now that they're as old as they are. In the old days, I would, you know, come home from the road, and you know, a weekend would be staying up until 1 or 2 at night, and then you're back home on Monday. I would have them for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I would, you know, be exhausted from arriving at home. My sleep cycle would be messed up, and then I'd have to wake up at 6 o'clock and get them ready for school, and then bring them into school. And that was a lot more challenging in those days, to sort of, because I was in a constant state of either musician exhaustion or fatherhood exhaustion. And now it's a lot easier, but I'm still picking them up for school, you know, and they live about a half an hour from me. So when I get home, I jump in the car, I wake up at, you know, 6:30 and get over there, pick them up, bring them to school. And then I pick them up after school, and then we get some good hang time after school. So it's, now there's a lot more time for me to recover and to spend time doing stuff that I need to do as far as my job is concerned. It's not a constant stressor as it is, as it was when I was, you know, responsible for them from, you know, for 3 days straight. And so self-care, fortunately, music is a lot of self-care. Exercising, I think. I don't meditate, but those are meditative things for me. And you know, you're in love with them, so it helps. It helps when you like your children.
Yeah.
And that, you know, no matter how tired you are, I just felt so incredibly lucky to just be gazing at them, that it would bring out the best in me despite how tired or burned out I was. So yeah, eating well, as Brian said, and Pooja, walking, and sleeping, finding places to catch up on sleep. Yeah, those things really help me a lot. And Brian, obviously, cat care helps.
I grab, when I'm feeling down, I grab a cat, y'all. This cat here, her name is Scraps. Aww. And I got her off Craigslist.
Nice.
That's where I met my wife, ironically. Anyway, yeah, she hangs out behind the computer. But anyway, I agree with what Ellis said. Those are all great ways to, you know, to do that. And I also feel like with where we're at in, you know, day to day, it's so stressful. You know, with things being really expensive, and you know, you gotta be cognizant of what you're spending, you know, because I didn't go to college, you know, I think Marigold here is, you know, the type to, you know, go to college, I'm thinking. And my wife went to college. She went to Rhode Island School of Design, and that wasn't cheap. And, her family struggled. Her dad was a truck driver and her mom was a school teacher, and they did their best. Luckily, she got a pretty good scholarship to offset the cost. But, you never know where life is going to take you. You could be good now, and then there could be health concerns you got to look out for. So pragmatism is good, but don't let pragmatism put a wet blanket on your fire of passion. I think with me, I do spend a lot of time. I do yoga. I work out. I run on the treadmill incessantly. I'm a weird guy. I do like a lot of different things. I live in a hilly community, and I walk up and down the hills, and I do anything to take my mind off my mind. Because sometimes that could be a thing where it could turn on yourself. Like I used to have bad panic attacks. Like I'd walk out of a barbershop with half a haircut, because I would be in I felt like I was dying. I've been to numerous emergency rooms thinking I was dying. I've had, got up during dental work, because the needle was in my mouth, and I kicked the doctor and he went back into his tools. So there's been times in my life where my mind has been out to get me. Or at least I thought it was. And a lot of it has to do with my childhood, but that's a whole other issue. But I think in today's world, there's so many stressors and outside influences that we have to kind of insulate ourselves from. And I feel being a father, you have to be in top shape in order to do it, whether it be mentally, physically, spiritually. You have to let all these things work in synergy together. So you can, at least hope for a good result. No guarantees in life, but at least it gives you a head up.
Yeah. Pooja, you mentioned burnout and exhaustion earlier. Yeah. How can parents recognize that? How can they kind of, try to get ahead of burnout and exhaustion?
Yeah.
I think that even look like? Maybe that's the first question.
Yeah. I mean, I would say some of the clear signs of burnout would be, sort of like detachment, maybe like starting to detach a little bit from not reality necessarily, but like from people or from things that you're normally doing that are important to you, and kind of like being a little isolated in some ways. I think, with work, maybe performance at work starts to dip a little bit, and you're realizing, I used to perform really well, something's going on, like what's going on? And then the obvious things, like I said, anger, irritability, maybe just, poor sleep, like things are just kind of feeling, poor hygiene, like taking care of yourself. Those kinds of things I think are all major signs of, something's up. Let me take a look at what's happening here. And maybe I talk to someone. Of course, therapy, I'm a huge advocate for. And I think that can always be super helpful for some people. But yeah, just kind of catching or having a close community, people who really know and love you, who can also feel comfortable talking to you about, oh, you don't seem okay, and I'm here to help you. I think that some of us are blessed to have some of those people in our lives, and it goes a really long way.
You have a support group called In Tune that you host every Thursday, and it's specifically for those that have relationships of industry partners. What are some common concerns that are brought up in that?
So I'd say the majority of the folks that join our group are the partners who are at home. So like partners like myself who are at home kind of trying to make ends meet, sometimes parents, sometimes not, but who are the ones who are kind of experiencing the challenges that come along with having their partner touring. Some are new to relationships of touring professionals and are like, wow, what's going on here? How am I going to make this work? Like, this is crazy. I never see this person. And I'd say, so common themes I'd say are around, routines, communication, making agreements that you are as a couple, are both into, as simple as a text before bed is like a non-negotiable. Where am I going to be? Here's my schedule for the week. Here are the times I'm available to talk. So there's no kind of expectations that aren't met. So I noticed that a lot. I also noticed a lot around the leaving and coming home. So those like reentry and leaving, those moments for partners are so confusing because, you're so excited they're coming back and they're exhausted and not themselves. They might have had a bad show and they're super grumpy. And, I've been there with all this stuff in my life. And then you add some kids onto that and it can be very messy. So just ways to kind of find, that common ground, that hyper communication. My husband will tell me now, like before he gets home, like, look, I'm not myself right now. I'm not going to be 100%, but in a day you can go have your time because I will be there. So just being really, really open about what's going on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for having these open and honest conversations about parenthood. There are so many different aspects that I personally did not think about, raising kids, creativity, songwriting, but then also adding a relationship to that and kind of trying to find that balance. But this has been a really incredible conversation. Thank you so much, all three of you, for your expertise.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Ariel, we can hop in.
Hey, Tara.
Hey.
Wow, that was a really good one.
That was awesome. I loved hearing, everyone's perspectives, especially, it was so cool to hear Pooja's perspective along with the father's perspective, Ellis and Brian, and just kind of, how they all balance from the father's singer-songwriter perspective to Pooja, who is a partner of a touring artist and mother. And there's just a lot of similarities, but biggest takeaway for me was just communication. Also just, trying to be honest with yourself where you're at and be present.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'm thinking about is, just age and time and maturity at age of parenthood and things like that. Ellis and Brian both talked about that, where Ellis became a father at 40 and Brian became a father at 18.
Yeah.
And just thinking, just about my own self at those ages and, coping, the ability to have a little bit of self-understanding about emotions or stress or the anxiety of the world and being on the road. The road is tiring, and then having small children and just the coping mechanisms that we might have at the different ages. Yeah,
it was just really powerful to me to see that all three of them are, can have full balanced lives and are having full creative, inspiring lives with children. I think there's such a stigma sometimes, or a narrative, that once you have children, your life is completely consumed with having children. And I think it's so powerful to hear and see other creators say, you know what, there's a balance and you can do it. And it's really cool.
What's funny is I was at the dentist a few weeks ago, and I remember asking my dentist if in her career she finds a good work-life balance. Because I was thinking about, that's hard to it's hard. It's almost like a merry-go-round, it's not that you ever find the balance, not like a teeter-totter seesaw kind of situation. You're never just balanced just right, but it's more like, okay, this goes around again and here we are here. And It's more like that. And she laughed at me and she was like, oh gosh. And I thought she was going to say, yes, absolutely. Being a dentist, there's excellent work-life balance. I thought that was why you would choose a career path as a dentist. But she said, no, it's, it's really, really challenging. And I thought, oh, okay. Like, it's challenging as a musician. It's challenging as a dentist. It's challenging life, personal life, professional life, creative life, parenting. We want to have single-minded focus on any of those things for a sustained period of time, but maybe what it is more like a dance.
Absolutely. I mean, like Brian mentioned, so many things are going to come up unexpectedly, and you just kind of, like you said, have to dance your way through it, honestly, and try to find that balance, and also remember to take care of yourself, like Pooja was saying, to hopefully get ahead of any challenges that inevitably come.
Right, like using the wisdom of what you've had to deal with in the past, and using that to anticipate challenges in the future, and not to use that as a source of anxiety about the things that can go wrong, but use that as a source of preparedness.
Right, and resilience, because we all have gone through things before, so it's it's inevitable, but it's also, I don't know, to me these conversations help just remind me to stay present as much as possible and to be flexible.
I'm curious, Tara, since this was the second of this 2-part parenting series. We spoke with Beth Nielsen Chapman and Kate Klim last month, and now Ellis, Paul, and Brian Mackey. What do you think? I mean, we talked about some different things in the last one than we talked about in this one. We talked a lot more about responsibility, I think, and time and being present in this one. And the last one, we talked a lot about identity and just having time to write songs and that integration. Do you have any thoughts about last month's conversation and this month's conversation?
Yeah, I just love that they were so different. I didn't know what to expect. But of course, everyone's going to bring a different perspective. But I think it was really helpful to hear, about motherhood, about fatherhood, about parenthood in general, and just like how you balance. I think also with women, like our conversation, it was rooted in identity, because there is such an additional layer of stigma when it comes to being a female artist in the industry and really having to make that decision on having a child. I just thought it was so beautiful to hear fathers talk about, like Ellis saying that, just the light that he gets from his daughters, and Brian as well, and just kind of seeing that bond, because I think we don't hear it enough. We don't see it enough.
Agreed.
And so it was really powerful.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was really powerful to just listen to these two fathers talk about how in love they are with their children.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really beautiful. There were a lot of beautiful things that were said in this episode.
Yeah, it was just so great to get, again, everyone's perspective was just so different, Ellis, Brian, and Pooja. And I think it's important to hear and have these conversations, the honesty, the openness, the challenges that come with parenthood. But also, I mean, like Brian said, what's better than creating a tiny human?
And here's the thing that I'm thinking, Tara, as you're talking, I'm like, and you are a daughter.
Yeah.
I'm a daughter. Like, all of us are the daughters or the sons. We're the children of our parents. And so there's something deeply healing about these last 2 episodes or sessions, just hearing parents talking about their children and then remembering, oh, we are the children of our parents. And perhaps whether they were songwriters or not, musicians or not, perhaps these are some of the thoughts that they had to contend with, or some of the, and maybe, just like these 2 fathers look at their daughters and are so in love with them, maybe our parents were looking at us as well. That's a really beautiful, recognition, I think.
That's powerful. That really is. Yeah.
Well, Tara, thank you so much for another great conversation. I can't wait for the next one. These are all really fantastic. So just a lot of gratitude to you and to Backline and to Pooja for joining us for this one. I hope that she comes back for a future one. And
Yes. Yeah.
we'll
We'd
bring you
love
on. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ariel.
Yeah. And hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for this one. And if you're watching on the replay, fantastic. Please do say hi in the comments, the chats, just so that we know that you were watching and listening, and would love to know what resonates with you. And I want to also just say a word about the SONA Foundation website. We have a lot of great programs that we have unrolled over the last year. We've just been really creating some fantastic things, from our career corner, where people write in, songwriters write in with questions, and our mentors answer the questions. And so there's a page on our website for that. And then we also have links to our previous Fireside chats, which have been going on now for about a year. So many great conversations. Every single one of them I've just come away from with, a full heart and some new ideas to think about. And then especially want to talk about, well, also I want to mention our Music and Money series, which is all about financial wellness and helping songwriters be better educated about our bizarre ways that we make money, all the different streaming monies, the ways that we collect from different sources. So we have some resources on our website for that. And then our most recent therapy assistance project, TAP, our TAP grants were just rolled out very, very recently, and we are working with Backline. If you are in need of therapy, if you don't have a therapist and you are looking for a therapist, you need to know, does my insurance take therapy, or does my insurance offer a mental health portion? Can they cover therapy? You can find that out by going through our website and clicking on that button that will take you over to the Backline case managers, and they will be able to assist you on that. And if you need financial assistance to access therapy, the new TAP grants, the application is live now. So we really wish you the best, and we will see you next time for our Fireside chat. Take good care.